Well, hello. And it's Tuesday night. True Crime and Legal Update night. It's True Crime night, Tuesday night. I mean, it feels like I've been on all day because apparently I have with the trial. I just took a break and trial ended a little bit early today. Oh, hey, Anna. Good to see you. Yeah, you were up early with me also. So welcome. And Juju, nice to see you here. And everybody who's listening, I can see the numbers who's listening in the back. That's fine. That's fine. But tonight, I do have an update on a case that we've been following. I do have an update on Kohberger. Okay, but I also have a new case. So as people are coming in, I'm gonna leave it to you guys. What do you want first? New or old? Mm, and thank you for being here. Mm, it is it's been quite the day. Testimony was varied, let's say, today. New. Hey Andrew, welcome. And Juju says old. Okay, we need a tiebreaker. I got one new and one old. Okay. Someone break the tie. I'm just gonna wait. Either that or I'll flip a coin. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? First there's nobody saying anything, and then now I've got one and one. And Wrecker, hello, welcome. Wrecker says new, so that's 2-1. Go new. Andrew got it first. Okay. Well, let's do that then. There was a lot of preparation in new. And just in let's just okay. The new would be the missing moms from Kansas. It's been everywhere in the socials. Okay. So we're going to dive into that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. We are going to be talking about children. Both the children are fine. So that's a good thing. Okay. And thank you for the ordering record. Because when it gets to this crazy stuff, the more orders, the better. Orders always make me feel comforted. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hey, Couch. Hey, Couch. How are you doing? Did you take a break also? All right. So, anyway, I guess we will just get started with this then. Let me just find the best presentation way for this. Hold on one sec. Let me get rid of my magic cursor. So far. All right. This is Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley, who on March 30th, they went missing. They were on their way traveling to a designated location called Four Corners in Oklahoma to pick up Veronica's children, who are ages 6 and 8, for a supervised visitation. They were leaving from Hawkton, Kansas. Jillian Kelley is from Hawkton, Kansas, and Veronica Butler has moved in that general area, Eckerd, I believe, or Kansas area. She's a nurse. She had relocated there after separating from the children's father years ago. And she's on supervised visitation right now. There's a contentious custody battle going on. Some say divorce and custody, but as I learned, they were not married when they had their children. They were not married, which led to some of the custody stuff that we're going to get into in a little bit. They were having a birthday party for Veronica Butler's youngest daughter, and she was picking them up from their father's mother, their grandmother, who had physical custody at the time. They were staying at her house, okay, and it was planned that she would pick them up and bring them back for the birthday party. It was a court-approved visitation supervisor, Jillian Kelley, that accompanied her, but the women never arrived. They never arrived at the destination. Family went looking for them when they didn't show up. There was a missing persons put out. It was quite concerning. Their vehicle, was located in the travels that they were going towards their visitation. There are only a few roads. One of them is Highway 95. which is where the vehicle was found abandoned that morning. Okay, it was found. Now, we're going to go into great detail in regards to the whole thing when we get to the end of the story. But for now, in the in the beginning, we'll just say that there was a massive search going on. They were an endangered missing advisory was put out right away because it was so unusual to find the abandoned car. And I must say that the vehicle was abandoned on the side of the road just 20 minutes from the planned meeting of 10 a.m. with the grandmother, Tifany Adams, to pick up the children. It was that time that I'm giving you is based on cell phone data that we'll get into later. That was the last transmission of any thing from their phones. It was only about 3 or 4 miles from the destination of where they were heading. They were like on the way. The whole trip would have been 16, 17 miles total. So like didn't take much time to get there. They left by 9 o'clock or had contacted the grandmother to say that they were on their way. Um, the abandoned vehicle was found by Veronica Butler's family. It's not clear on whether it was her fiance or live-in boyfriend or actually family members, the Padillos. Actually, a couple called in the 911 that they were there. I do believe that the fiance may have been with them. It's being reported differently. This was so much reporting on this right away that some really crazy things were said, and it was really kind of difficult the whole first week to parcel out like what is actually a fact and what isn't. And I'm still not sure which ones are speculation. So for this presentation, as usual, I'm going to use law enforcement in the legal documents. And I will also go into some of the things that other YouTubers are saying and other media are reporting. But I'm going to leave it up to you guys as to more research and what you're actually going to believe or not believe. Like, I don't think a lot of this is, I think a lot of speculation is going on right now because it is such a tumultuous case, to say the least. It's kind of heartbreaking. But here we go. Endangered missing advisory of the women. They find the abandoned car early that morning. Okay, no one in it. Blood on the outside of the car. Veronica Butler's glasses. A busted hammer. And a magazine in Jillian Kelley's purse, which is still inside the vehicle, but no gun. No pistol. Just a pistol magazine. They immediately, law enforcement, after being checking out the scene, suspect foul play. Immediately up the search in the investigation. They get warrants for the women's cell phones. These are critical missing people now that looks like harm may have come to them. So they got warrants, they got searches, they start investigating. They talk to a lot of people involved. They talk to family, they talk to friends. They find out that Veronica Butler is in the middle of a tenacious and actually chaotic, I would say, custody case. Quite contentious. Not actually getting along with anyone at the time. The supervised visit, it all added to the concern of everyone. Okay. This is Jillian Kelley. Let me just tell you, she's a court-approved supervisor. She was well-loved, well-liked. The heartbreak over everything missing. Her husband is Pastor Hugh Kelley in Houghton, Kansas, and he was recently going to be moving to, he's going to be going to a new pastorage in a neighboring town. She was well loved, wonderful. They have children. I didn't post pictures of their children up here, but she constantly, it was quite concerning that everyone was missing and considered at risk. This is Veronica Butler with her children and her children's father, whose name is Wrangler Rickman. He is the children's father. Okay, they are not married, and they've been in custody battles on and off since 2019 when they decided not to be together anymore. after the birth of their second child. Sometime after that birth, they decided that they weren't getting along very well and things became contentious and everything kind of snowballed from there. As I said, the children currently are ages 6 and 8. Mm. I'm going to tell you that the bodies were discovered. They automatically, when they saw the amount of blood, assumed that the women were at risk. Okay. The women were missing for almost 2 weeks. The bodies were discovered on April 13th. It was confirmed the next day through law enforcement and through the coroner's office that the bodies that were discovered were of Veronica Butler and of Jillian Kelley. There have been arrests already. A lot of what I'm going to tell you, you've already seen already all over the media. Okay, but I think what I want to get into first is the contentiousness of the custody case and how we got there first, if you don't mind. Because at the root of this, in the violence that actually happened, at this point, we know that Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley were murdered. Nothing happened to them accidentally, so to say. And it is being said that even in the law enforcement that this custody battle was the catalyst for all of it. So I'd like to start there on how something like this could happen, because I myself am having such a hard time wrapping my head around this, the unnecessary outcome that happened. Okay. Did they say cause of death? No, they just know it was foul play. Immediately upon one of the quotes was, Liz Stewart, in answer to that, let me just pull that up. Actually, that's a very good question. In regard, did they say the cause of death? No, but in the documentation that I'll be bringing forward, they do clearly state that the condition of the bodies immediately said it was foul play. Okay. Yeah, it is a great name, isn't it? And hello, Mark. And welcome, Liz. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, all of you that are coming in. Liam and others, if I haven't mentioned you personally, I am all glad that you're here. Just once I start the presentation, it's hard to keep track. So if you have a question, please do me a favor. Could you at me if possible? And if not, at a mod, like maybe the mod could help out by at me if I miss a question, because there's going to be quite a few. And I definitely want to handle all of your questions for this. A custody case where no one was thinking about children appears. Isn't that usually the way, right? It's so frustrating, isn't it? Juju, I agree with you. The frustrating part about this whole case is this didn't have to happen. But let's go back and find out how this custody case is actually getting to this state. Okay, I told you that in 2019, it appears that Wrangler and Veronica had decided they weren't good. They're going to separate. Okay, they had their own issues. I'd like to tell you both that they were very young when they had their children, and they're very young. Okay, 19 and 18 years of age, young. Okay, to have children and to go through. They were quite inexperienced. However, in 2022, after quite a bit back and forth. Originally, Veronica Butler was given physical custodial custody of the children, and Wrangler was given visitation rights. Okay. That was appealed later and overturned because of the information and everything that was put forward. Wrangler did not actually get to present everything appropriately, and they just like went forward with things. It was kind of one-sided. They decided to do shared custody after that. It was agreed upon by the two of them too. There was a lot of going back and forth, and they were actually making accusations back and forth against each other that were, as the judge said, they were young, they were inexperienced, they were like making false claims against each other back and forth and saying all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately, your typical BS custody where you're just at each other as parents and not thinking about the kids. But eventually they came up with an agreement and there was shared visitation. okay, going on. Reports that I've seen during that period of time say that the judge was pleased that Veronica Butler was always trying to let Rickman see Wrangler see the children, or Mr. Rickman was always, she tried to keep them in contact with the children, but she did move away from where they originally lived together, and that was part of the problem. Part of the suing of custody of Mr. Rickman did was because she moved out of the area, because she was not having a job at stable, moving out of the area to start over again because she was having problems with him and also his family. She had to move out of their place and she had to take care of herself. She is a nurse. She did move to Kansas, got a good job, got a place to stay, and was taking good, from what they said in the reports, good care of the children. The children always seemed happy to be with their mother. They looked well cared for, and they were always very pleased to see their father when spoken to by court officials. Now, this goes back to 2021 and 2022. Now, after 2022, when they got the shared custody, Wrangler Rickman gets into some legal trouble. He's got a rap list. He's got a rap sheet, I got to tell you. He may be decent with his children, but this guy is just got a hell of a lot of stuff going on. Now, Veronica had already said, the example of, not having a job and taking the children out of the state and etc. So they were looking at her a little sketchy too. Now they're looking at him a little bit sketchy because of everything he's getting involved in. And that's when Tifany Adams, Wrangler Rickman's mother, gets more involved in the custody issues. And she starts filing reports in late 2022 and early 2023 to the court in regards to Veronica's care of the children, all kinds of things. Okay. Towards the end of 2023, Wrangler Rickman got arrested again in violation of his parole for an offense he already had. And he was actually in possession of a firearm against his parole. This isn't good. I mean, he was let out on he had an offense. He had a domestic violence attack in front of the children while intoxicated. It was not good. Okay. Emergency filings by Adams claim during 2023 in November that Veronica was putting the children at risk because her brother was being accused of SA, and that Veronica was not doing enough to keep the children away from contact with that side of the family. The court actually gave custody to Rickman Wrangler, who at that point is already, now he's got physical custody, but he's also getting ready to go to jail, which they don't know yet, but they're going to find out because he violates on his parole and he gets thrown in jail, which is how Tifany Adams had physical possession of the children. Okay, which the whole time that Rickman had custody, they were staying with Tifany Adams, the children. Okay, not so much with Rickman on his own. He kind of trusted his mom to contribute with all this back and forth. And there were times when Wrangler Rickman himself had to call the police because Tifany Adams wouldn't even let him see his own children, even though he had custody. And I make note of that. That's well documented. Unfortunately, the emergency filings from 2023, which caused Veronica Butler to be put in the position where she now only has supervised visitation, no longer has physical custody of her children. Okay. Those have all disappeared from the records. Now, I don't want to say disappeared. I will say that because they're part of this felony criminal case, I mean, this is murder, that perhaps because they involve the situation that they have been pulled for evidence and sealed because there are children's name in there in identifying information, because of the type of case it is, because of the fact that they need to present this as evidence untainted. They don't want everything all over there. They don't want to taint the jury. You know how it goes. And it's custody. It's not unusual to pull that. There are YouTubers out there complaining about it because they say it's a violation of the Public Records Act. But I say, you know what? if it makes for a clean case, we're all just going to have to wait because the stuff there from 2022 is there. Okay. We also have the actual statements of Veronica Butler's lawyer, who then informed us all that because Rickman now goes to prison and Adams has the physical custody, but she doesn't have legal custody. Okay. Veronica Butler was able to petition the court over these months from, the end of November 2023, okay, in November, through February 2024, when Rickman actually gets, in a lot of trouble as far as violating that parole. And he is now ordered to stay in a drug rehabilitation facility right there in the Panhandle in Oklahoma for 6 months, to where if he leaves there to advise the court, and he'll just go right back to prison. Okay. Well, he's now in court ordered rehabilitation as a process. He's been doing drugs, he's been drinking, he's been threatening, he's had violence charges on him. It looks like some gun possession issues also while being on parole. An immediate violation, which threw his butt in jail, which is a problem for the legal custody. Veronica Butler was set to have a hearing on April 17th, to which her attorney has put for the statement that it looked like she was going to gain her rights to either share custody or get. Now he's in jail, so she may get total physical custody and then visitation for Rickman again. Okay. But she was looking to get non-supervised visits anymore, and which means Tifany Adams was going to be losing control of the situation. And when I say control of the situation, I mean control of the situation so far as Tifany Adams had control over the first part of who would supervise the visits. She had a particular person by the name of Cheryl Brune that she liked and that she was responsible to pay for the supervised visit person to be there when she wanted her there. And then if she couldn't be there and Tifany Adams would be paying for that, then Veronica Butler would have to make arrangements. And there were several other court-approved supervisors that she could actually choose from. And Jillian Kelley was one of them. Because on the day that she disappeared, in interviewing Cheryl Brune as to why she wasn't the supervisor, she told law enforcement that Tifany Adams had contacted her and told her to take a couple weeks off, because law enforcement wanted to know that since she was the regularly scheduled supervisor, why she wasn't available for this particular visit, why Jillian Kelley was with Veronica Butler. And it turns out that that was a play made by Tifany Adams. She actually didn't want Cheryl Brune to be there. Veronica did what she needed to do to keep the visit, after all. Oh, she wanted to see her children. They had a birthday party to attend to. It was her daughter's birthday. Why not? She's paying for the supervised visit. She gets Jillian Kelley, agrees to go, and there they go. Unfortunately, just the way that this played out, but Tifany Adams really wanting to be control of the situation. She says that she doesn't want Wrangler Rickman to see the children. I'm going to read some of what I found. Let me just find this mission one that I had in regards to the custody. There was quite a bit that came up. The mother, Tifany Adams, was saying that Wrangler was no longer as interested in his children as he was in the past. He was saying that he trusted his mom more than Veronica to take care of the children. He was one of the statements that was made through the church organization that was actually familiar with this from Jillian Kelley and familiar with several of those that are involved, was saying that it's like, the court documents had shown that Butler and the father of her children, as well as his family, were involved in this bitter custody dispute over the child. And in a motion filed in the Cimarron County Court in Oklahoma last November, Tifany Adams, the children's paternal grandmother, opposed any adjustment in supervised visitation arrangement Butler had with her children, noting that the children had been exposed to SA while under her care. The motion alleged the children's father, Wrangler Cole Rickman, was a drug addict who had no interest in caring for his child. She threw his son right under the bus. And that it noted, however, that he trusted his mother more than he trusted Butler to protect the children. So therefore, she's speaking for Wrangler, saying Wrangler doesn't want the kids and yet she should have the kids. And this is where the emergency order came through. However, she did not get custody. Physically, Wrangler is the one putting the children in her home. Wrangler Rickman was the one who had custody, and Veronica Butler at the time is only allowed supervised visitation. Petitioner, aka Tifany Adams, appears to be capitalizing on the indifference of Mr. Rickman has shown for his children. Mr. Rickman has removed himself from the children's lives. Instead of being a father, he now seeks out the pleasures of drinking, alcohol, using drugs, and other degenerate behavior. When he left the children, he left them in his mother's care, not in Veronica's care. The reason for this is twofold. First, it would have been a violation of the court's order granting Mr. Rickman temporary emergency custody for him to leave the minor children with Veronica. This is because, and the point can't be strengthened off, they are saying that Tifany Adams is saying that's because the brother had been found to have been abusing minor children by the court. He is an offender by the court. And Adams had concerns that Veronica Butler was not keeping him away from the children well enough, stating that Veronica has violated the no contact order by allowing the minor children to be around her brother, her sibling. Okay. And Tifany Adams wants custody because she says the father of the children trusts her more than Veronica Butler. So I don't know if trust is the word. Fear might be, as we go into the story a little bit more. Fear might be better. Oh, there. Okay. There's a lot. These are little captures of things that happened during court. Veronica had admitted at trial a while back before 2022 that she leaves the children with Wrangler's paternal grandmother, Debbie Davis, which is Wrangler Rickman's grandmother, not mother. Okay, Debbie Davis, and that they have turkeys and they have pet that the child occasionally when they were younger. These kind of complaints go all the way back to 21 and 22. When the children were younger. In Miss Davis' own testimony, she only admitted that her turkeys pecked both children, but more horrifyingly, that she has made it a chore every morning to go out and feed and water the turkeys who peck at her. And this is one of the things that Tifany Adams was referring to, that even though they knew that the child had an issue with the turkeys, she still made the child go out there and feed the turkeys, not thinking it was an issue or not. And they were making a bigger deal. They also said that there were some bruising, from a dog, and a scratch under her eye. There was some bruising on her legs and her thighs, that they thought was suspicious. Although all reporting said that it came from being head-butted by a dog, and further looking into it. I will tell you that all of these allegations were checked out by the court, and this is why Veronica Butler was scheduled to be getting visitation back unsupervised and possibly custody of the children, because a lot of it was found to be just tit for tat, back and forth, and unfounded in this emergency order, which we can understand why they put in place. When you think the children are at risk, emergency orders are necessary. But further investigation does happen afterwards, and it looks like proper proper procedure was followed and investigations went forward, and it looked like Veronica Butler was getting her children back. Um, Statements in the court do say that Wrangler is a good father. He's always with his kids, and that, um, you know, that they feed cake, back and forth and stuff. There were nice comments. But then there's the rap sheet: domestic assault and battery against a pregnant woman in public intoxication, February 21st, 2024. Wrangler Rickman may be good around his kids, but not such a good guy. Okay, so this was it. He finally got, like, he just wasn't enough in November that he had already been on parole. Now he's got assault and battery, now intoxication. And by the way, this offense was done in front of minor children. All right, so he's not a saint. All right, let's get back to the vehicle. It was abandoned, found just south of where they were headed, of the Kansas border in Texas County, Oklahoma, near Highway 95 and Road L, south of Elkhart, Kansas, just 3 miles from their destination. This is the route that they were going to pick up the children. It should have took them less than an hour to get there. And based on where they found the vehicle, they were right on track. They made no other stops. They left Houghton, where they lived, to Ava, where the grandmother, Tifany Adams, lives, and they were supposed to pick the children up. Now, I'm unclear, based on the reporting, on whether they were picking up the children at the house or at Four Corners location, which is down the road, which is Route 95 and another road, and they all meet like in one area, and it's like a big conversion area right there. So I'm not sure if they were actually meeting at the physical house or just up the road a little bit. I will tell you that we do have arrests, okay? And I have affidavits. In the affidavits that have been listed out all through the social medias were not redacted. And the majority of the information that is out there includes social security numbers, birth dates, even driver's license numbers. And like, I understand that, like, everyone is really, really upset about this case. They were arrested, and I'm gonna pull up. I am going to actually pull up the one affidavit and read from you on there, because actually the only way to really understand the whole case as it was laid out by law enforcement is hearing the investigations and the information that they found, as they did, and to hear it law enforcement's way. Let them tell the story. Okay, I will tell you that the 4 that were arrested have had their arraignment. They are currently in jail, and no bail was provided. In part of the affidavit that I'm going to read also has the information as to why bail wasn't even suggested for these offenders. And let me just get the document. There are so many things here. It's so many moving pieces, but the custody case, that part really, really, really got me. It got me. Okay. Before I read the actual scenario, I just want to go over what they are actually charged with. First of all, the charging affidavits, they all have numbers. These are the cases. The 4 arrested are Tifany Michelle Adams, grandmother of the children, okay, and mother of Wrangler Rickman. Tad Burt Cullum, who is the alleged live-in boyfriend of Tifany Michelle Adams. Cole Earl Twombly and Cora Gail Twombly, who are married. They've been married since 2015. The 4 of them proclaim to be members of a group called God's Misfits. Okay, and there's a little bit of tumultuous information in regards to that too. First of all, the person who actually it has a group called God's Misfits on on Facebook, okay, states that he is just a simple pastor who does not believe in hate, isn't an anti-government group, as it's been actually reported out there that these God's misfit. Now, these four, actually, the way they're operating, they actually would qualify as an anti-government super religious group, but not the group that's being represented out there in the public as God's misfits, which is run by a pastor named Squirrel. Yeah, I kid you not, he goes by the name Squirrel. Here is a link to a video that News Nation did, an interview with him. Okay, that they were asking him some questions about it, and he was quite offended that people thought that he doesn't know these four. There was another couple by the last name of Cook, who also are part of this God's misfit affiliation that the four are claiming, that have claimed throughout their area. It was commonly known. They had meetings at both the Twombleys and the Cooks regularly. They kind of prepared, they're like anti-government, they're preparing a little bit for end of times kind of things. There's a lot of ammunition, there's a lot of guns involved when the residences were checked. There's some issues here. But whether or not it's part of this other one, Pastor Squirrel says absolutely not. We only follow the readings of Jesus Christ. I promote love and understanding, and I would never have anything so hateful as part of my group. So I don't know. I don't know where the truth lies on that. I haven't seen a manifesto of this God's misfits cult-ish anti-government thing from these four. But it was obvious through conversations and interviews that have been done with area residents that Tifany Adams and Tad Cullum were a force. They were threatening, aggressive, and not exactly nice, especially if you didn't agree with their beliefs and how they thought things were going. They truly operated outside the law. They thought they knew best about everything, apparently. And now they're sitting in jail. And when I say sitting in jail, they're sitting in jail to the point where in this prison, in this area where they are, there are currently 36 men and 11 women at last report that I saw in this prison. There are 4 wards for the men, 2 wards for the women. The men are on separate wards, completely away from each other, with 2 wards in between, so they cannot be around each other. Cole or Tad will not be able to converse in any way with each other until their hearings or whatever, or through, they would have to be through either their pastor or their lawyer, because none of the 4 is allowed visitation except for law enforcement, their attorneys, and pastors or priests or religious people that would come their own. And since they actually operate within their own thing, I don't know who that would be. No contact whatsoever. Any contact with friends and family is done by video or call. That's it. A video call or through an iPad, like a prison supplied iPad for visitation, period. No physical visitations whatsoever. Tifany and Cora are being separated. One's on the ward, and one of them is being kept separately outside of the ward, so that absolutely there can be no contact because the wards are too close together. But they're not letting the 4 of these people talk amongst each other at all, which to me sounds very, very popular, very, very easily. Just so you get an idea of what we're talking about, in that general area, there's only 2,300 population. The whole panhandle itself, that whole area, which is said to be like, since the 1800s, supposed to be like the wild, wild west, supposed to be like, crazy central for crime and whatnot, and free thinking, do whatever you want kind of stuff, like little bizarre things happening. There's only 28,000 people in that whole area. It's very rural. It's very it's very separate. There's not a lot. There's only, like I said, 2,300 people in that whole area, in that whole county, in the neighboring county. Yep. Like Liz said, very small population out there. Okay. Very, Very small. All right. When they went to arrest them, it was a complete SWAT operation. Okay. They did not release the affidavits. They did not release the information of anything. Okay. Until after they arrested everyone. They arrested Ted Collum and Michelle Adams with no problem. Okay. They found a lot of ammunition, things in the home, but they were prepared for anything. They did not know what to expect. They knew they were dealing with contrarians. They knew they were dealing with people that were anti-government. They knew they were outspoken, forceful, violent, okay, threatening forces to be reckoned with. They didn't take any chances here. Okay, after investigations, which we will read through in the affidavit when I'm done, you'll get the whole scenario. But they were well prepared. They were well prepared. Also, when they went to the Twombly's, they were arrested without incident. Okay, but that one was you'll hear that one went a little bit different, just a little bit different. There were some things said on both sides. Okay, here is to the top. That's Ted Collum. Next to him is Cora Twombly. Below is the grandmother, Tifany Adams. And next is Cole Twombly, spouse of Cora. Claiming to be God's misfits, but like I said, the squirrel said no. Okay. Squirrel actually said no. And that link that I'm going to put one more time in there, because poor Mr. Squirrel. I also want to note that there was a Judge Forbes who actually knows Tad Callum and was actually speaking with Bryan Anton of News Nation. And apparently the mayor of this area saw the interview and asked for his resignation. Some councilman, because he was like getting involved in it and in like about Tad, and it's such a horrific crime. I mean, this area is so outraged, and can you blame them? The women go missing, they're endangered, and this whole area is just so upset about it. At the arraignment, they had 2 guards. They had to bring them into the court for their arraignment wearing protective vests because they were afraid that they were going to get shot. The families were so outraged. People were cursing and yelling and carrying on in the court, outside the court. They had multiple police. They had the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation was asked by the sheriff's department to come in and assist with them. And they have all SWAT, you name it, everyone involved, because they did not know what to expect. We've got large amounts of guns involved. We've got like a situation here where we've got like a cult influenced anti-government kind of thing going on. They didn't know what to expect. And now we've got a whole area that is completely outraged. And the 4 of them just getting from the police cars, from being transported to get into the court, needed 2 to 3 guards on each of them and protective gear to get through. And even still, the crowds was carrying on. Not that it was a huge crowd, because like you said, it's a very rural area and smaller, but everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody. And everybody is not very happy about what these 4 did. Okay. You did. Oh, one more. Oh, come on. Just go over. There we go. So the charges against the 4 are murder in the first degree, deliberate intent in a felony, 2 counts each, 1 for Veronica Butler and 1 for Jillian Kelley. Also kidnapping of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelley, 2 counts each, also a felony. Conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree with deliberate intent, also a felony, 1 count for all 4 of them. The affidavit is laid out for each of them just slightly different. It changes the name on who they conspired with. Like for Tifany Adams, it'll say the 3 other parties, and vice versa. You put Tad Callum first, and it'll say the other 3, on and off, because it's written. There are several different affidavit pieces written, but Officer Ott is writing the first one, complete, concise, that I'm going to read to you, of the whole scenario, what happened, everybody that they talked to, where they're getting their information. And I want to get to that because that is going to be the crux displaying all this out. But I did want to tell you that, one part of this that just shows you that Cora and Cole, although not getting as much play in the media as Tiffany Adams and Tad Collin, because they are more like the bigger than life, pictures of God misfits and anti-government, super religious kind of, think they know better figureheads. Okay, but Cora and Cole are not so innocent. They kind of get this like violent, like, we'll do what we want kind of streak. Because in one of the affidavits, it actually does say that when the law enforcement officers were speaking with Cora Twombly's daughter, who is one of the main sources of information against all four, she had information that directly led to quite a few avenues of investigation that helped pull this case together. She's a teenager. While interviewing her and her brother, Cora and Cole arrived and tried to get access to them while the law enforcement was there talking to them in Carrick, in Carrick. And Cora was verbally aggressive and very upset with the officer who's preparing the affidavit, and she was not granted access to either of them. And Cole exited the vehicle armed with a handgun in his holster and his belt, also aggressively. And this did not go well. Every interview that they tried to have, they were like, had to watch it carefully. No officer could go, like, they were going in pairs everywhere, everybody together, and with more than one organization usually. Okay, most of the interviewing was now done by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, who was called in by the Texas County Sheriff's Department because they needed the assistance. This was a huge missing mom's case. It was they were feared to be endangered, and then when they found more out, they knew that there was just something really bad going on here. And so they had multiple organizations involved, but most of the investigating that's put in the affidavit is done by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Okay. But just to show you that, like, it's not just like the two are the leaders and the other. It's just a group mindset here of doing, whatever they want, and aggressively, actually. So, okay. All right. I'm going to pull this down. And before we go any further, I'm going to bring up that affidavit. And I'm going to tell you guys, trigger warning. I'm just verbally going to say, we use the real language. I'm going to be reading this as it is. I'm not going to be sharing any of the information that shouldn't be out there. This is part of a double documentation that also is the motion to hold defendant without bail. But I'm going to read the bottom part first because it actually shows. And let me make it bigger for you guys. Okay, and we're going to start down at the bottom, because that actually is the affidavit, which I found a clean copy with no actual identifying information as far as socials and all of that in the driver's license and all. So I will be able to create a link of this for you all and put it in the description for those that want to read later. But anyway, here is the course of events. I'm going to read it quite quickly. I know we're coming into the first part of our hour, but we're going to be going 2 hours. I can guarantee it tonight. So thank you for hanging in there with me. Hey, Alice and April and Meow, and you are Victoria, and everyone who is coming in after. Thank you, Shill, for the 5 memberships. It looks like Alice, Sandra, Meow Now, April, and Victoria have all been gifted memberships. Welcome aboard, and send me your Discord IDs. If you do not have access to the Discord as of yet, you are welcome. All right. So from the state of Oklahoma, county of Texas, in Oklahoma, here is the affidavit. And this is on Saturday, March 30th, the Texas County Sheriff's Office requested Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, going to be called OSBI from now on, with the suspicious disappearance of Veronica Butler, 27, and Jillian Kelley, 39, from rural Texas County after their vehicle was found abandoned near Highway 95 and Road L, south of Eckerd, Kansas. Butler and Kelley were traveling to Oklahoma from Hugoton. It says Hugoton in other areas, so I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it is in Kansas, and it is where they're both from. Interviews were conducted related to the disappearance, and it was discovered that Butler was in a problematic custody battle with Tifany Adams for the custody of Butler's 2 children. The father of those children was Wrangler Rickman, Adams' son. Butler's visitation with her children was court ordered to be supervised every Saturday. Adams had a particular person she preferred to supervise those visitations. That was Cheryl Brune. The court ordered Adams to pay for Brune to supervise visits if that was who she wanted to be present. Otherwise, Butler was to pay for the person to supervise. Adams had said that Brune was unavailable to supervise the visitation on March 30th. So Butler was required to arrange the supervision with one of her 3 approved individuals. Butler contacted Kelley and planned to have her supervise the visit. Butler told family members she was going to pick up her children from Adams at 10 a.m. at Four Corners intersection of Highway 95 and US 64 West, a location in Texas County, Oklahoma. Butler and Kelley left Kansas and traveled to Highway 95 and Road L about 5 miles north of that destination. Butler and Kelley arrived at that location at approximately 9:40 a.m. Butler planned to bring her daughter to a birthday party, but after they did not arrive, the family began to looking for Butler. Melissa and Joey Padilla, who were Butler's family members, located Butler's abandoned vehicle just west of the intersection of Highway 95. And the Padillas then contacted law enforcement at 12:09. An examination of the vehicle and area surrounding the vehicle found evidence of severe injury. Blood was found on the roadway, an edge of the roadway. Butler's glasses were also found in the roadway south of the vehicle near a broken hammer. A pistol magazine was found inside Kelley's purse, but no pistol was found. Adams told OSBI that on Friday night, March 29th, Rickman and Butler's children stayed the night with Barrett and Lacey Cook. Adams said she planned to pick them up that morning before visitation. Adams said she called Butler at 9 a.m. hours to confirm the meeting, and Butler told Adams something came up and she was not going to make it. Butler's phone records confirmed the call occurred. However, at the time of the call, Butler was in Kansas in the process of picking up Kelley to go meet Adams. Adams stated she was at home at the time that Butler and Kelley went missing. Adams picked up the children before noon from the Cook's residence. OSBI interviewed Brune, and she said she was available to supervise the visit that day, but Adams told her to take a couple of weeks off from the visitation so Adams could question the children related to how Butler's approved visitation supervisors were. Butler and Kelley's phone records indicated their devices were actively sending signals to their carriers until approximately 9:42 a.m., after which the devices were no longer seen by the networks and stopped transmitting. Neither phone was found at the scene or within the vehicle, and they are currently missing. Adams was last known person to communicate with Butler and was scheduled to meet Butler and Kelley for visitation at 10 a.m. on March 30th. Through the child custody case, recordings were obtained where Rickman discussed death threats by Adams and Adams' boyfriend, Tad Cullum. The custody battle began in February of 2019 with many hearings and court appearances. On March 18, 2024 and March 20th, 2024, motions were filed requesting extended visitation for Butler. A hearing was scheduled to occur on April 17th. Butler's attorney informed OSBI that Butler was likely to receive unsupervised visitation with her children at the hearing. At times, Adams refused to let Rickman have his children, even though Rickman had legal custody of them. Law enforcement previously responded to a call for service where Adams refused to give Rickman his children. Reportedly, that officer told Rickman he believed the children were better off in Adams's care. Rickman's grandmother, Debbie Knox Davis, reported that in mid to late February of this year, Rickman told her they didn't have to worry about the custody battle much longer because Adams had it under control. that Adams knew the path the judge walked to work, and we will take out Veronica at drop-off, quote unquote. Rickman was confirmed to be in a rehabilitation facility in Oklahoma City at the time of the disappearance. The children remain in the custody of Adams. Rickman denied having told Knox that information. On April 1st of 2024, OSBI agents obtained a search warrant for Adams' cellular phone. OSBI agents performed an extraction on the device. Information gained from the device included web searches for the taser pain level, gunshots, prepaid cellular phones, and how to get someone out of their house. On April 3rd of 2024, OSBI interviewed CW, age 16 years. CW is the daughter of Cora Twombly and Colby White. Cora is married to Cole Twombly. CW stated that she overheard group conversations related to Butler not protecting her children from her brother, all in reference to a sexual abuse allegation. CW advised that she was told by Cora, her mother, that Adams, Cullum, Cora, and Cole, and Paul Grice were involved in the deaths of Butler and Kelley. She stated that Adams provided burner phones to use so they could communicate without using their personal devices. And CW said that she saw 2 burner phones charging in Cora's nightstand in her bedroom. CW described Cora, Cole, Adams, and Cullum, and Paul Grice as being part of an anti-government group that had a religious affiliation. Through the OSBI investigation, it was learned that they called their group God's Misfits, and regular meetings were held weekly at Twombly's in the home of Barrett and Lacey Cook. At this point, I would mention that although not charged, Paul Grice, Barrett, and Lacey Cook are still indicated here in affiliations, and we're waiting to find out how that is going to play out. CW was told on March 29th that Cora and Cole would not be home in the morning when she woke and were going to be on a quote-unquote mission. When CW awoke at approximately 10 a.m., Cora and Cole were not home, but returned home later. CW knew that Cole and Cora took a blue and gray Chevrolet pickup owned by them and a blue flatbed pickup owned by Clint Twombly when they left and returned in the same vehicles. CW was told to clean the interior of the Chevrolet pickup. CW asked Cora what had happened and was told that things did not go as planned, but that they would not have to worry about Butler again. CW asked about Kelley and why she had to die, and was told by Cora that she wasn't innocent either, as she had supported Butler. CW asked Cora if their bodies were put in a well, and Cora replied, something like that. CW also disclosed other attempts to kill Butler occurred during February of 2024 near her home in Kansas, in which Adams, Cullum, Cole, Cora, and Grice went to Houghton, but Butler did not leave her residence. This is consistent with the web search discovered on Adams' phone about how to get somebody out of their house. CW stated that Cora told her that the plan to kill Butler in Kansas was to get in front of her while she was driving and to throw an anvil through her vehicle windshield. The plan was designed to look like an accident, as anvils fall off work trucks regularly in the area. Snide remark on the side here. I did not know that anvils like fall off trucks like this. This seemed odd to me, but I'm not from the area. The OSBI investigation showed that Adams purchased 3 prepaid cellular phones from Walmart in Gongyon on February 13th of 2024, and the phones were identified by phone numbers. Search warrants for information related to location services and phone usage were completed for each device, and it was learned that all 3 phones were at the area where Butler's car was located and the last known location of Butler and Kelley at the time of their disappearance. After their disappearance, between 10:16 and 10:35, it was determined that the phone numbers of two of the phone numbers were at a property owned by Jamie Beasley below a dam in the pasture. near an area of freshly disturbed dirt. Concrete was moved from a location near Beasley's residence, approximately 150 to 200 yards to below the dam, where it was discovered that a hole had been dug and filled back in. The location where Butler and Kelley disappeared from and where Butler's vehicle was located is approximately 8.5 miles away from the location below the dam on Beasley's property, giving drive time from the location of where Butler's vehicle was located to Beasley's property well within the 34 minutes between the time of Butler and Kelley's phone stopping transmission and the prepaid numbers arriving at the dam on Beasley's property. All prepaid phones stopped transmitting on the morning of March 30th at locations near Twombly's residence in Beasley's property. Beasley advised that the dirt work was done with a skid steer by Cullum on March 29th and was possibly finished on March 30th. In the morning, Beasley knew that Cullum left his skid steer on his property the night of March 29th. When he awoke on March 30th, at approximately 1200 hours noon, the skid steer was gone, and Cullum does rent the pasture property owned by Beasley for cattle grazing and has access to it at any time. On March 28th or 29th, Cullum asked Beasley if he could cut a tree down, remove a stump, bury some concrete, do dirt work where the concrete pile was in below the dam. Adams was with Cullum at Beasley's property when that conversation was had. In a contact with Cullum, your affiant learned from Cullum that Adams is his significant other. Beasley agreed to allow Cullum to do the work, and Cullum brought up the idea of doing that work to Beasley. On Sunday, March 31st, in the morning hours, Cullum was at Beasley's house and told Beasley that people were looking at him for the disappearance of Butler and Kelley. Cullum told Beasley that he didn't want the police or people to cause problems for Beasley and said that all the skid steer tracks on his property without a skid steer there looked bad. Beasley said that if anyone asked, he would just tell them that Cullum had done tree and dirt work for him. OSBI investigation showed that Adams had searched for gun shops on her cellular phone. A search of local gun shops showed Adams buying 5 stun guns at the Big R store in Gomyon. The purchase was made on March 23rd. The property near Beasley's residence, where the disturbed dirt was located, was leased by Cullum. Cullum grazed his cattle and accessed the property regularly to feed the animals. On or about March 29th, Cullum used a skid steer to dig a hole and bury concrete at the site near the dam. On April 13th, law enforcement agents executed a search warrant on the Beasley's property. The area of disturbed dirt was excavated and the bodies of 2 individuals were discovered. The state of the bodies indicated they died as a result of foul play. Further, a stun gun was also located at the excavation site. After her arrest on April 13th, during a custodial interview, Adams made statements to law enforcement indicating she was responsible for the deaths of Butler and Kelley. At a hearing scheduled for April 17th, Butler would potentially have granted unsupervised visitation with her children. Adams vehemently opposed this and went to great lengths to plan and purchase items used in Butler and Kelley's murders. The crimes and the bodies were concealed, and attempts were made to obscure Adams, Cullum, Cora, and Cole's whereabouts at the time of the murder. Adams, Cullum, Cole, and Cora were willing to kidnap and murder 2 victims to limit visitation for Butler. They are therefore willing to take any, capitalized and underlined, extreme, violent measure to protect themselves and thwart the criminal justice process. Adams and Cullum have a history of violent interactions, including death threats and intimidation against individuals who disagree with their ideas. Members of the conspiracy participated in multiple attempts to murder Butler in the states of Oklahoma and Kansas. They abide by their own philosophy and have no regard for the sanctity of human life. This affiant is going hard. Adams, Cullum, Coral, and Cole have resources sufficient to organize and execute a complex murder. Therefore, they also have the resources to flee if given the opportunity. At the time of this arrest, Cullum had a rifle, ammunition, body armor, and a go bag prepared at his residence. Adams and Cullum owned numerous guns and other weapons. Adams and Cullum posed grave danger to witnesses and community members. No conditions exist which would effectively assure the safety of the community or any person involved in this case, including court officials, should Adams and Cullum be released. Further, the affidavit, and this was written out by Lieutenant Amy Gates, one of the OSBI officers. Okay. Art was actually the one who actually wrote out the affidavits that they were filed on. This one was part of why the defendant should be held without bond. Then in Oklahoma, the reason these defendants are going to stay there is for these particular reasons. All persons shall be bailable by sufficient sureties, except that bail may be denied for capital offenses when proof of guilt is evident or the presumption thereof is great. There's a lot of evidence here, and Tifany Adams has already given a confession of sorts. 2, if it's a violent offense. 3, offenses where the maximum sentence may be life imprisonment or life imprisonment without parole. 1, 2, and 3 are all right there. Reasons they're not going to get out. Number 4, felony offenses where the person charged with the offense has been convicted of 2 or more. Or 5, controlled dangerous substances. 4 and 5 did not apply in this case. The defendant's actions above 1, 2, and 3, and thus under Oklahoma Constitution, the denial of bail is appropriate. Okay, but and then they go on with a bunch of case law, which let's just say that they're going to say continuing threat to society based on their beliefs. Okay, proof of guilt is evident. See attached sworn affidavit dealing the relevant facts at this time, and the state would point out that after arrest, this defendant, Tifany Adams, did provide a recorded statement to law enforcement indicating her responsibility for the death of the deceased. Taking into consideration the rebutable presumption of 22 Oklahoma State 1101, and as detailed in the attached affidavit, no condition would assure the safety of the community, which includes witnesses and court personnel involved in this case. The facts are that in order to prevent Veronica Butler from regaining custody and or unsupervised supervision with her children, the defendant and conspirators were willing to commit murder. Said murder was complex and involved extensive preparation. These are statements of the co-conspirators that their problem would be taken care of because in addition to removing Veronica, they knew the path the judge walked to work. Now faced with the consequence of a sentence of death or life in prison, the defendant and conspirators would be willing to do anything since they have shown to be willing to commit capital murder in order to limit Veronica's visitation. Whereas the state requests that the court hold the defendant without bail as allowed under Oklahoma Constitution. Hail, hail, hear, hear. I tell you. All right, there's enough reading. Like that is actually for YouTube. I'll just put that last part up there. This was the district attorney who signed off on this. He's asking for none and did receive actually from the judge no bail from all of them. They've been served. They're on lockdown. They don't get visitation. This is serious. The whole area is open. Says I'm going to continue to follow this case. As heartbreaking as it is. I'm going to look for some questions now. I'm sorry, all of that reading that I did not pay as much. Answer says, why would someone bury concrete? Is that a normal thing or a weird explanation? I'm not sure. I'm wondering if because they said that the bodies were found 10 feet. There was more given in other articles and in other statements that were made by law enforcement that it was 10 feet down, and perhaps because of water tables and or so that it doesn't get dug up by animals, they wanted a base of a concrete and then put the bodies, and perhaps they were considering going back and pouring concrete over them after. I'm not sure. Maybe he just thought that was a plausible excuse for digging such a big hole. Not sure. Yeah, maybe to make it digging, you know? They do look very defiant. Not only hers, Liz, like she looks scary, you know. The head anvil tilted is yeah. I don't get that part, Liam. I really don't. Like why they say that that happens so common in that area. I've never heard of anything. It was I mean, you guys are getting the same thing I was about that. Like that just didn't make sense to me. I mean, anvils usually aren't moved, right? They're so damn heavy. Like how do you get them on a truck to begin with to fall off, you know? No, I don't mean why would a murderer bury concrete, but is that something a normal person would do as a normal activity? Like, is that a believable explanation or an obvious made up story? I think it's believable to the point that um I know here when we did some construction on the house, we weren't allowed to put concrete in the dumpsters. And my brother himself, when some batch of concrete went bad and he had to get rid of it, he did bury it because there was nothing else to do with it. You can't dispose of it in the garbage, and you couldn't get the dumpster to take it away, and you had to take it to the dump yourself and pay a big fine, or a big fee rather, not a fine, but a big fee to dispose of it. So maybe in that area it is a common thing to, if you bust something up with concrete, the best thing to do to get it off the land and everything is to bury it deep so it doesn't interfere with anything. I'm not sure. I mean, that's something we could look into, you know. And okay, Mousy says, also, I just Googled anvils don't just fall off trucks. Cora should have done her research. Listen, the way Cora was talking to her 16-year-old daughter, Cora needs a lot of help. Okay. Number one, like, can you imagine you're 16 years old and your mother is telling you about just callously going out and killing people? Like, it's the right thing to do. Um, I have to say, the fact that this young woman spoke up with law enforcement and told them everything, kudos on her. I hope she's being protected. I hope she's removed with her brother from the situation. It does, I don't like to see families separated. Well, she does not deserve to be dragged into this craziness, this absolute craziness. And now she's at risk because there are four absolutely deranged individuals whose lives are on the line now because like this is serious. You read the evidence, like they've got a witness to statements. The woman said she did it. Her conspirators are thrown under the bus automatically because like she got them the burner phones and the taser guns, and they used the cell phones have been in their home. Okay, they used their own vehicles to transport the bodies apparently. Like, this doesn't look good for them. And Tiffany Adams actually confessing somewhat with that recorded message, which we haven't heard and hasn't been released. And we shall see if they expedite trial on this. Now, I've heard that public defenders were assigned for the arraignment to everyone, but I heard that Cora was requesting a public defender permanently. The other three may have private attorneys or not, but I don't have the names. I do have the names of the custody attorneys and the information coming forward for mm, for Veronica. Her attorney's name. Oh. Well, Tiffany Adams, he had Stephen Jones, who they went to interview him, and he didn't really want to speak on it. He said that, there was a tumultuous case going on, but he didn't want to speak on the fact, like, was he was actually asked straight out, do you think that she was against it enough to commit this crime? And he said he wasn't going to go there and discuss that. And I don't blame him. Okay. I'm trying to find. I did have the name Garrett Oates of of Steak and Oats was the attorney for Veronica Butler that was giving information in regards to more than likely everything was going to be turned around at the end of this month. Had she made that hearing, which is so distressing to me that she's trying to do the right thing, things are trying to work out. In somebody else's belief that they could do better. Now, I don't know what's going on with the brother or any of that. I do know that he did file an emergency custody issue over that information, but that things were working towards a different situation. And if Veronica Butler is not her brother, okay, and if she doesn't live with him and she provides a safe environment for her children, there's no reason to keep her children away from her. The fact that they went this far over this issue because they don't believe in the government or the system. I understand that when it comes to child custody cases, they take forever. Things things don't always go the way that it should. And I get that. And people get frustrated. But to take it into your own hands to this degree, I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't. Oh. We were talking before about the size. The Texas County in Oklahoma only has 2,300 people in it, like I said, and in the whole Panhandle area is only 28,000. When it comes to the trials of the, first of all, let's hope that they all just do plea deals and just take life, and we don't have to spend money on them. But faced with the evidence that Tifany is actually admitting what she did, I can't imagine that there'll be a trial. But let's see how crazy it actually does get, because we've already got a judge who had to resign because he was like sticking up for this guy. People are backing away from stuff. People are picking sides. And the reason I mentioned the area and how big it is like, to get a jury that's not going to know about this or have a feeling about this, going to be pretty tough. Really tough. Based on the arraignment and the people that were yelling and at risk, law enforcement not looking too happy about having to escort with vests on the prisoners into the court. That's going to be every single time. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen. And we're waiting to hear how Paul Grice fits into this. Also, the cooks who are mentioned, the cooks had possession of the children while all of this was going down on the 30th. Basically, the day of the visitation is the day of the murder. It was quick. They interrupted their travels somehow. We're going to have to hear about the rest of that. The way that the information is being posted publicly, I don't know how much more we're going to find out about the evidence. I want to get the coroner's report. They do say it's foul play. I haven't seen a coroner's report as of yet. Choo-Choo signed the Emancipation of Anvil's proclamation. You guys are really, this Anvil part, it's such a dark story. And, I really feel for the families. Think of the children who no longer have their mothers. 2 children of Veronica Butler. And I do believe I saw a young adult and 3 minor children in a picture of Jillian and her husband that I chose not to post because it's her private family picture. Even if it was on Facebook or wherever somebody pulled it from, I just felt a little uncomfortable posting it with all her family members listed. But I do know that now there's 6 children without their mothers. Okay. There are 2 partners without their wives, their significant others. There's mothers and grandmothers without their grandchildren and children. Veronica, through all her faults, was growing. Well, she was getting responsible. She had a full-time job. She cleaned up her life. They never found that the children were in any ill care at all when they were with her. And it's repeatedly in the early documentation of the judge who stated that. Besides the fact that they were young and too busy arguing with each other and trying to prove who was right, both Wrangler Rickman and Veronica Butler in the beginning were taking care of the children. They were clean, well fed, happy to see them, good, nurtured, in good moods, no issues. It's just this last year where things started to get really, really contentious. It seems that the more Wrangler Rickman depended on his mother to help with the children, the more she got notions of it being she knows best. That's speculation on my part, but that's as far as I'm going to go on that. Um, uh, so if you guys are done with the anvil, I'm going to look for other questions that don't involve the anvil, okay? Because that is just making me crazy. And I don't really think it's true, you know. Um, but since they did say anvil or a hammer, and they did find a busted hammer right there at the scene of the abandoned vehicle, about that notion, they also, the proof of buying of the tasers guns. Now they bought 5, and that's why I'm wondering when will it be mentioned about Paul Grice. Okay, there's a bunch about him circulating on the internet now about him giving up his U.S. citizenship, him being a real anti-government guy. Maybe this God's misfit stuff has more to do with him. But Paul Grice and the Cooks are both mentioned as members of God's Misfits also. And so we'll have to see what actually pans out about that. But Pastor Squirrel says it's not part of his Facebook Good God's Misfit group, and he doesn't want to hear about it. Like stop trying to put him with this. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's not a man of hate. Can a life be complete without an anvil? I hope so, because I don't have one. I know. I know, Sean, they're not right. But you know what? With a case like this, I understand. Like you take something like that that just hits you, and it is so odd and so bizarre and so absolutely mind-bendingly untrue. Like you just can't imagine that it's true that anvils just randomly fall off vehicles all the time and crash people's cars. Like, yeah. Mhm. Are these people sovereign cits? They sound like it to me. I'm not sure, Liz. We're going to have to check that out a little bit more. Um, you know, between all the custody digging that I did, in not being able to actually find the stuff that Tiffany Adams was finding, but just actually finding reporting on it as it was happening. So we do know she was making those filings, and you know, I can see why law enforcement would pull them down. When you go and search old YouTube video, like old articles talking about these, and they had the article there, and now you go and it goes, it's been removed. So the articles did exist at one, the actual documentation did exist and was public at one time, and now it's not. And there are some that are complaining because it's been tied up. But I'm one of those ones that cannot honestly understand why law enforcement would want to pull that all in for the evidence and for the record, and not have it circulated to damage the actual jury pool even more at this point in its custody records. Okay. I also want to point out that law enforcement was very careful not to release anything until they knew the children were safe, until they knew the children were removed from Tiffany Adams's care and were with others in a safe place. That is when they proceeded to actually do the arrests and put out the affidavits immediately. They made sure the children weren't at risk. They didn't know what was going to happen, and I commend them for that. The children are safe. They are with others. Yeah. I was thinking about that, Ricker, when you're talking about, but cartoons told me that anvils always fall from the sky. I'm thinking of the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons where the anvil does fly randomly around. I don't know. Maybe that's where they're getting this. I have no idea. Mm. You know what, Sean? I love all the weirdos in my chat too, every single one of them. And yes, you're all weirdos just like me. I include myself in there. The dark humor that we need sometime to get through these. Like, I get it. I do. And we're all weirdos. Okay. And it says, I wonder how much the religion will come into play on this case. Oklahoma is the same place where pastures for Trump originated. Pastures for Trump. Yeah, I'm wondering. Like, but how godly are you to just take another life, to put yourself above another life? I mean, they know that Veronica Butler was not the one abusing the children at all. Um, Tifany Adams knows that. Every time they come back from a visit with their mother, they're clean, they're happy. You know, I don't know. I don't think you have provided enough information about this to start drawing conclusions. You need to follow this case. I am following this case. I'm not doing conclusions. I want to see where it goes. How much more information? Like, let's see. We've got like the reason it all went down with the custody. Well, we have the evidence list so far that they have. I even have a list of everybody that they actually interviewed already, which I'm not going to put out there, but it is attached to one of the affidavits. But the reason I'm not putting out there is because it's not redacted. And even though these are horrible individuals accused of horrible, horrible crimes, and I'm saying horrible just based on the crime, okay? The evidence that puts it out there, I would say it leads towards a pretty solid case from what I can see right now. But I'm not going to convict anybody until trial, that's for sure, if there is a trial. I'm actually hoping that because Tifany Adams put out this statement to police officers that she did do it, that they all four will actually do a plea agreement and actually not put the area, the victims' families, the children, and everybody through all of this anymore, and just take accountability and get their life sentences and stay locked up to where the government actually feels that they are a threat to everybody. Now, I'm sure an anti-government group like this is going to use that to their advantage to promote their philosophy about government bad. Well, murder's bad. Murder's really, really, really bad. Like, come on, you know? Mm. They did lose everything in one day. They have a dad in rehab who's got to now do a 6-year sentence. He got that 6-year sentence suspended. He was on parole for it. He didn't have to actually sit in jail, but he couldn't behave himself, and he had to do the parole violation with the gun. And now he's in rehab, not for his problems, but I'm hoping he will straighten himself out, but not to the point where he will actually let his mother have anything to do with these children ever again. But I don't know. I don't know. I am curious who brought the domestic charges against Wrangler? Who was the pregnant woman? Wrangler Rickman had married someone a few years ago, and she did leave him. I did see that she put a post on Facebook that she had left him. It's unclear because I can't read the actual filing charge. Okay, but I did find some motions back and forth. He is in the separate. It may have been the separated wife. It may have been, or a new girlfriend. We're not sure, but yeah. And there were minor children present, and he was intoxicated. And that was the offense in February. But he had already gone up on charges for something that happened in November of 2023. Like he had charges. He went for another crime to where he received a 6-year suspended sentence, but with parole, where he was not allowed to have firearms. He had signed an agreement, and he has actually revoked all that, which was why he went back to prison in February for violation of that order from another incident. So these new DV charges in February actually led to him being put immediately back into the prison system because of the gun that was involved, because he had possession of a gun. Yeah, the children definitely need more stability. Everybody's saying their mind. Yeah. But I thought it was like of note that in the court documents I could read prior to everything getting sealed up for the 2023 allegations in the custody, the judges that were reading on the case files always said that both parents were doing their best. That Veronica Butler never kept the children from uh, Wrangler Rickman, when she had physical custody herself, that she did try to keep them in contact with the father, and she did arrange visits and such. But it was all of this fighting going on between all of them that was causing, just bad behavior in front of the children and around them. It can't be good. It can't be good. Um, but we are going to continue to follow this case. I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call it God's misfits. I'm not so sure. Like, they self-proclaimed themselves, but I don't want to disparage Squirrel's group if they have nothing to do with it. And when you search the internet, that's the only group you can find. Like, we can't find this God's misfit group unless you find the one that's associated with Squirrel. And he says that they don't have anything to do with his group. Just like the Republican Party in that area said that, Tifany Adams might be the chairperson for their group, but it was probably only 2 people that vote them in, and they don't know who she is. Like, they're backing away too. We've got the council people backing away from a judge that supported Tad Callum and his notion. Says he was a good guy, got fired for doing an interview. He says it's because he did the interview. I think it might be because he was spouting his beliefs in a contentious case and making a bad light on the area as a public representative. But who am I? I think it's more that. But anyway, Kelley is absolutely innocent. All of this over this, and Kelley was just being a kind, giving person in giving back to society, doing the greater good, which breaks my heart. Somebody out there actually living it, walking the walk, doing the greater good for others. Okay. Filling a need as a supervisor of visitation to help families get back together, to think things in control, putting children first, a loving, caring individual, a pastor's wife, loved by everyone, in the wrong place, wrong time. I mean, she wanted to help. She's part of the system to help make things better. And these people just thought that they knew better. And to say that she wasn't innocent just because she was there with Butler just shows you how far these people will twist their thinking to feel justified for what they do. And I am so happy that law enforcement put such strong statements to the judges at the arraignment to say what a risk this type of action and thinking is for society, that no one is safe. The judges, the clerks, the jury, the witnesses. Cora's own daughter is at risk of this kind of mentality. It's like, I hope she has serious protection. Okay, that affidavit says exactly who she is, even though they're only using her initials and not her name. They say that she's Cora's daughter. They say how old she is. Everybody in that area knows who gave the testimony. Everyone in that area knows who talked to who in regards to what. But it seems that this area also is pushing back against the actions of these 4 and strongly in regards to those that showed up for the arraignment and how they were threatened, cursed at, spit at. Okay. I feel for law enforcement having to be there. 2 people, 2 guards at least, and 3 in some cases, all them walking in. Okay. They had their ankles, what do you call them? Shackles and handcuffs. They were well shackled coming in, doing the perp walk, in their orange jumpsuits with actually all protective vests on in case they were shot at. Well, it's the panhandle. So they did not know, based on the beliefs, on what would happen. And there's statements out there from the sheriff's office and everybody else saying, hey, did you know what would happen? Because we didn't know what would happen. We took every precaution necessary, and I'm so glad they did. Do you know that the school that's in the area, Yarborough School, where Butler actually attended when she was a kid, we're not sure if the children attended there because it is right near Tifany Adams's home. So if the children would be in that area. Do you know that school, upon the missing moms in everything that was occurring, actually shut down for a day or two? just to protect others. They didn't know what was going on because they knew it was a contentious custody case. They knew something violent had happened, but they took the precautions. It does appear that a lot of people did take the precautions to keep children safe, especially the Butler children. In they made sure that they were secure and safe before anything went forward. And that was good to hear, because we have seen things in the news in other cases like Waco and stuff like that. We know where anti-government groups with religious affiliations are pushed back against, and they actually turn against their own, thinking it's the right thing to do. And the children could have been at great risk, and anyone else who would have been there. Luckily, only Tifany and Tad were there at the time. Mhm. Mm. They made us look bad, so let's go act like vigilante morons. Yeah, I get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me either, Liam. You know, it sounds like they could be hurt in jail or prison. It could. I don't know if they're keeping them separate to protect themselves. They are keeping them separate so that the two of them can't organize anything together. That's for sure. But I guess if they think that they're at risk, they will put them in solitary confinement. Yeah. All right. So, let me move on to the other thing I have for you today, if that's okay with you guys. All right. Let me just. All right. And it's brief, so I won't keep you too long. Let me see if I can get my presentation back up. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Get it on the right page. I think you saw another familiar face we were going to be talking about tonight. The last thing I want to tell you about is Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho 4 Moscow murders, the 4 university students. You know, we've been following Bryan Kohberger since way back in November of 2022, I believe. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, because it was a year in 2023 that everything had happened. So we've got more than a year, over a year and a half. And now we've got a new expanded filing of Alibi on Bryan Kohberger. Remember the first one that went through, and the state had petitioned and the court approved that they needed to expand on that, was that Bryan Kohberger was driving around. And that is his alibi. He was not at the house. He was driving around in the general vicinity. And the new expanded filing, which is public on the site, you guys, if you go to the idaho.gov site that I list in all of the videos for Bryan Kohberger, I do believe it's down there. You're going to find the new expanded filing of Alibi that you can read. But basically, to sum it up, they said that they're going to be able to show through cell data and stuff that he was, often did this. They could show a repeated pattern, that he often was out driving at night or in the morning, that he liked to hike, and he liked to drive, listen to music, and stargaze, and he's into nature. And that's what he was doing. And they're going to be able to prove it. Yep, watching the stars, hiking, etc., etc. You know, you know. So that was the first filing. The second filing, which is even more interesting, is those of you that followed the contentious hearing with me in regards to the survey that the defense was doing in order to support their motion to change venue, because they do believe they're not going to find an unbiased jury in Moscow, in that area, in Latau County, and they want the venue of the court changed to an area perhaps where there hasn't been as much media coverage. Now, the hearing was quite contentious because Bill Thompson, he actually thought that several of the questions gave information the way that they were worded, rather than actually ask what they've heard. They were actually telling people facts of the case, and that some of those facts were untrue. Now, there were 2 particular questions in regards, the one about stalking, okay, and there was another one. I can't remember which one it was about. It may be I I'm not going to say because I don't want to misstate, but I know the one was in regards to stalking. And this was not evidence of the case in that Bill Thompson was pretty upset that erroneous information was out there, basically because of the non-dissemination order, the gag order that is there for attorneys and everybody involved in the case not to speak on it or to provide any evidence or stuff like that. He was saying that the survey itself was providing information to the public. And then we had a hearing, another part to the hearing, to where Ann Taylor brought her expert witness, the man who was running the survey, who spoke very well on it, explained it to the judge, explained that every single question was pulled directly from media coverage, which is what these actually surveys are supposed to do. They're supposed to measure the saturation of the media information that's out there. And they were able to prove by the numbers that less than 3% of people had actually not heard of anything. And that when you just ask a simple yes or no question, you don't often get the ring. And then if you actually provide some of the information, they'll say, yeah, I heard that in detail, and then I heard this, and then I heard that. But that they don't often volunteer the information on their own when doing the surveys, and that this was standard practice. And after the judge was sufficient, I mean, he didn't do his ruling right at the hearing, as we all know. We watched it all go down, but he has posted it now. And the survey is allowed to continue as is because he agrees. Those two questions were from the media. They did not come from court records. They aren't misrepresented. He could see where all of this information was coming from, and he does see the value in it. And it's not it's not unheard of that these kind of surveys are put into play in order to support a motion to change venue to prove that there's bias in the area. Okay. Now, they still believe that because they have like 140,000 people in this county, that they're going to be able to get an unbiased jury. The judge doesn't really think, but there's going to be a motion hearing on that anyway. They redid all the dates to Ann Taylor's satisfaction. Remember, she was complaining that she had to get this motion to change venue filings all in a row, all I's dotted and T's crossed, or she was going to miss the opportunity because the hearing date was coming up. Well, that's been pushed. It was in May. I think it was like May 14th or something like that. Now it's been pushed to June 27th to allow plenty of time for the survey to continue, get the information analyzed, and for her to be able to present her motion clearly with the evidence that she needs to support it, and then all the justification of case law and precedent and etc., so that they can have a more adequate hearing based on the facts to whether or not they need to move the court. When they move the court, the judge stays the same, and so do all the players. They just actually get a jury pool from somewhere else. Now, they can bring that jury pool into this court, or they can go to a court for that jury pool. I don't know how that works. When it was Fremont and Ada County, when it came to Vallow and Daybell, they just, moved everybody to the other court, and had it there. Judge Newman, I miss Judge Newman. I missed him so much today, like for stretching and everything. Like, he's one of my favorite judges. And I've often wondered what he would have done in this situation. I wonder if any of you that followed the murder trial have thought about that at all. I'm wondering, like, how he would have addressed this one. But I can't say that I'm actually against Judge's ruling. I actually think it makes common sense. I think that he reacted the way that he could, getting a filing in, late on a Friday, and wanted to shut it down until he knew more information, which is what he keeps saying. He wasn't saying anything was right or was wrong. He said he shut it down to get more information. Apparently, this pissed off Ann Taylor. Then Bill Thompson was already pissed off that they were doing this, and he thinks that everything's being tainted and information is being put out there. But still, I'm not here to do the thinking for you. No, Mark. I want you to think. I want you guys to think. Okay, so I want to see, what do you guys think about an alibi of stars? I was looking at the stars. I was star searching and nature hunting. Like, that's what I do. I couldn't possibly have killed anybody, even though my vehicle was in the area. Nope, it wasn't me. Mm. I'm wondering how that's an alibi because, like, it, I guess if there is enough, um, cell data information, they use cell data against people all the time. Why can't we use it to support an alibi or to support the opposite or push back all the evidence? I want to see it. And I'm sure if it's there, Aunt Taylor, they're going to be putting it out, and we're going to hear it in trial. Okay, which is quite a ways away. We don't even have an estimated date on that. They keep telling us 2025. Well, when I think about it, that's about par for course. I mean, look at the Chad Daybell trial. It's 2024. We've been following that for ever. Like, 20 the children were missing in 2019, you know? They found the bodies. And 4 years later, okay, and Lori Vallow's just going on trial in August for the death of Charles Vallow in the attempted murder of Brandon Bordeaux, shot at by her brother for conspiracy. We know her brother confessed to the shooting of Charles Vallow. I'm going to be seeing how that one goes too. Well, okay, let's see. His phone was turned off at critical times, so I'm not impressed. Yes, and I find it curious how they're trying to address that. You know, why did the phone interfere with him stargazing, like, or what? Or I don't know. You know. Oh, was he catching butterflies too, Liam? In the middle of the night, if 4 a.m. in the morning. Hmm. Is Ann Taylor's wardrobe going to be sponsored? I don't know. Ann Taylor does have some great suits, though, doesn't she, Angier? I used to love her for casual business stuff. I really like Ann Taylor stuff. That's a fashion label for Froofy. Like it's tweed and pencil skirts and really lovely blouses, actually. I don't know. Well, that's back in the days when I went, business attire every day, which I no longer do. You wouldn't catch me in one of those these days. No. Yeah. Yeah. His phone was turned off. There was no signal at certain times. It was out of range. Are they going to say he was up like what? Like out at some reservoir or something at those times? I want to see like the travel pattern of the phone. Like what direction was it headed in? Did it go into the woods and lose signal? Or did it just lose signal because he turned it off because he was in front of the house? These are the questions that go through my mind. And all of this is going to be in trial. And it's not anything we're going to get now because of the dissemination order, the gag order. We don't get to know nothing. Nothing. Yep. Nope. No, we don't. Mm. Drinking a beer and talk to the stars. Hey, it's not a bad way to spend an evening. Okay, but I'm not so sure if there's nobody with you and nobody saw you. Like, remember, they have his vehicle or what they believe is his vehicle. I can't say for definite because we haven't been to trial yet, right? Well, from the evidence that early on was put out there, they have his vehicle in the area. They have it on store cameras, like CCTV cameras, like going by at different particular times of the day and night, and which led them. There was a picture at one point. I know I did a video in the beginning of through the trees. You could see the white vehicle like behind the house. Um, you know, um, and nobody reminded me about the banner. You're right. So for the last few minutes, I did the whole show without it. Fish nerd. Oh my God. You see how necessary people are? I can't believe I did have it on all day for the trial. I did. I don't know why. I just forgot it now. Yeah. Okay, let's see. If I have learned anything from horror movies, it is that mobile reception in the US is extremely spotty and can fail at any time. This is true. This is very, very true. Wow. Okay. Hmm. I don't know. Not a Banner fan, Liz. Oh, I'm sorry. Like you know what? It's so hard for me to do the YouTubey things. Like, it's not. Like I just like to do like my thing. I just like to talk about the cases, do the research. Get other people's opinions on things. What? How do you guys feel about the survey continuing? Like, another comment that Judge made that I kind of stand behind is that the reason that he tried to check all this out was biased against him. And he wants the survey to continue because he doesn't want to interfere with what the defense thinks is their best case. Okay. And if the defense thinks that this has to be out there and he's trying to protect, prejudice against Bryan Kohberger, because his point was every single question was about, evidence against him. And he didn't want the opinion, all of this out there against Bryan Kohberger ahead of time, that it was prejudicial and that he was trying to protect his rights to a fair trial, which he was, but he doesn't want to interfere with the defense's process to defend him. And if this is what Bryan Kohberger and his defense team want to go forward with, well, there's precedent for it and we can see it. And if they didn't find it prejudicial, who was he to he kind of took the middle of the road here. He kind of backpedaled a little bit from his first stance on it. And I think it was the right thing because I think he was in a very difficult position. He had jumped the gun to stop the process immediately because he wasn't sure what was going on. And I can't blame him for that. To me, that was the right move. And then they had a hearing and figured it all out. And this is the judgment. Now everything will go forward. But when you make accusations like, oh, the jury pool is going to be prejudiced against Bryan Kohberger, well, it's the judge's job to make sure that that doesn't happen to the best of his ability. He is there to make sure that Bryan Kohberger gets a fair trial. He keeps the balance between the defense and the state. I'm not surprised considering how the survey creator described the methodology. Exactly. There was really nothing to push back against, especially when this is actually the guy's been doing it for 15 years and this is how it's done. But on the other hand, when I saw the questions, I can understand why Bill Thompson was a little upset because they did actually give the evidence back out again. But that was already in the media and it already was public information. And there is nothing wrong with sharing public information. Okay, the lockdown happened afterwards. Okay, all of this was out there beforehand. Now everything's under seal. But all of this has been distributed through the media. All of those questions came right from things that were going on in the media, information that was being shared in the media. You are surprised, Liz? I'm not actually. Once I saw the precedent on, especially with a capital case like this that could go death penalty, this murder is serious. We don't know if they're going to push for the death penalty here if they have enough with disregard. I mean, the crimes itself are horrific enough to qualify, but you've also got to prove in intent, and you also have to prove like disregard of life, and there has to be egregious situations on top, especially premeditation that would do it. So we don't know what they're going to be able to prove, but something as serious as a capital case like this, I could see why they want to make sure that the defense is not hindered in any way in putting the best defense forward. And if they think that to get a fair trial that they need to change the venue, they should actually be able to pursue the area to find out if there is prejudice in the area against. I mean, it's hard to find anybody that hasn't heard about this case, not just in Latau County, but anywhere. I am of the opinion that no matter where we have this trial, it's going to be difficult to sit a jury that has not heard of the case. It's just a matter of whether they can separate the information they heard from the facts that they'll hear in the case, what actually gets presented as evidence. A lot of these cases get a lot of media attention. Can you imagine trying to get a jury for if it goes to trial for the missing moms, for the Kansas moms, for that homicide? With that small area, like how hard is that going to be? It is, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult no matter what. But water is actually how we get there. Interviewing the actual jurors one-on-one from the pool, questioning them on the depth of their knowledge and prejudice in regards to the case, and deciding themselves between the judge, the defense, and the prosecution if those jurors qualify. It's going to be quite the process. And I don't think there's going to be, if it makes the defense feel better to move it to another venue, that they did the best that they could, because that is their job, to do the best that they can for Bryan Kohberger to have a fair trial in the best defense possible, because guilty or not, whatever we feel, that is the process. And that is how we serve justice here. That is the process. And he needs a fair and equitable trial. Everyone is entitled to it. Even those God's misfits who I really don't have a nice thing to say about right now. I couldn't even think of a kind word to say about any of them. I can't compliment their hair, their dressing style, the way they walk, the way they talk. Nothing. Like, not even like, you got nice eyes. Nothing. I have not a good thing to say, period. In regards to them, except I want them to have a fair trial, because when they burn their asses, I want them to burn them legitimately, legally, with the government that they are so against, right there front and center, doing it proper, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and serving justice the way justice needs to be done, proving that the system works, even against those that don't believe in it. I want to see that. Okay, but they deserve a fair trial, and we can't say that they're guilty, even though Tifany Adams says she's guilty already. So I guess we can say, if she says she did it, then I guess we could just agree with her. You did it. Now, what are you going to do about it? You're going to take accountability, save us all the grief, or let the families be restful knowing you're serving life in prison? Take a deal. Just don't make us prosecute you. Just admit it, fold, let's get it done with. Let's not put the families through it. Let's let people heal. That would be nice. We'll see. As crazy as this was, I don't actually seeing Tifany Adams may cooperate. I don't see the rest of them. They look quite the contrarians. They're going to fight tooth and nail. If anything, it's going to feed into this anti-government stance that they have. It's just, we're all wrong. We're supporting a system that actually lets these things happen to children, where they think that they're protecting the children, but are they? Are they really? What kind of protection is it when Cora Thornley makes her teenage daughter clean the truck out that was just used to transport the bodies of people they just killed? Can somebody answer me that? These people have people's best interests. They're worried about these children? They're not worried about these children. They're just doing whatever Tifany Adams said because they're probably scared of her. Or it fits their freaking warped belief system, inside this twisted belief system that they have, that you could be against the government. You're right about everything and the government's wrong. She didn't care, Anna. I'm looking side-eyed at that younger one. Cora is the youngest one out of the group there. This is her second marriage, her teenage daughter. To talk to her teenage daughter like what? Like she's part of the group? Like this is normal? The casual way those conversations were presented chilled me to the bone. I don't know about you guys, but that was chilling to read. Cora's daughter saying those statements as if this was conversation that happened all the time. It just chilled me to the bone. And on that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you for my 2 hours today. It felt good to do some true crime that wasn't Chad Daybell today after the trial. Maybe I'll do it again next week. We'll see what happens during the court week. Today, we had hearings for Courtney Clenny and for Keefe D. Dwayne Davis in regards to the Tupac murder. And, that Courtney Clenny is our OnlyFans model, charged with the death of her boyfriend, Christian Afusami. And we'll see what happened in those hearings, and possibly at the end of the week, we'll be doing a hearing update of what happened all week. Because Karen Reed was getting, her jury, and Trump got his jury, and they had opening statements, and they did have their first witnesses. So I would like to bring you up to date with that, maybe Friday or Saturday. We also had some movement in Scientology that I'm waiting for the next hearing, though, because the movement is very depressing, and I want to actually see what happens before I lay it all out. But on that, good night, everybody. And I will see some of you tomorrow morning for more true crime in the chat Daybell live coverage of that stream. We will have day 10 tomorrow morning. So have a good night, everyone. And thank you for being here. Thank you to my mods. Thank you to all of you for the questions. Your contributions in the chat not only are they humorous and help get me through some of the hardest part, that anvil stuff, I'm going to go back and read it later. I'm sure it's all lit. Like I've missed most of it, but you guys are something. You're my weirdos, murder minions, and thank you. Thank you for making this easy for me. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a good night.